The Chicago Bears got next to nothing from the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Justin Fields trade, but that was Ryan Poles' way of doing right by his quarterback and setting up both parties for a brighter future.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow Locked On Bears on all of your favorite social media platforms, including Locked On Bears YouTube channel. We can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, we put a bow on the Justin Fields era in Chicago. We look at the specifics in the trade, what it means for the Bears, what it means for the Steelers. We'll remember his Bears career and how he never really got a fair shake, but then was a product of poor timing and poor circumstances that ultimately led to this departure. And then we'll make sure to make time to also get excited for the beginning of the Caleb Williams era in Chicago. We can be both mourning of the career of Justin Fields and excited for what the future is going to bring this franchise. It doesn't have to be all bad. There's good that comes from this as well. But when the trade compensation came out, a conditional 2025 sixth round pick, I think we were all shocked that it was that low. Over the course of this offseason, as the trade talks were extended and didn't come to fruition quickly, I think we all started lowering our expectations for what the compensation might be. But I don't think anyone was expecting 2025 sixth round pick. Now, obviously, that's a conditional sixth round pick that could become a fourth round pick if Justin Fields plays 51% of the snaps for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But even if it becomes a 2025 fourth round pick, that's still a lot lower than we were expecting through the majority of this offseason. And by all accounts, it's less than the Chicago Bears were expecting over the course of this offseason. And so right away, I think you get this initial visceral reaction of like, man, Ryan Poles and the Bears did not properly manage Fields as a trade asset, that perhaps early on their expectations were too high or they were seeking too much and missed an opportunity to potentially move him for more before the quarterback dominoes had fallen. And then once the players signed, once other quarterbacks had been traded, then you feel like, oh, well, the Bears just took whatever they could get from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think there's some merit to that, but I think as the reporting came out more and more on how this trade negotiation went down, I do think there's more to it to this story. Like, yes, do I think the Bears could have gotten more from a Justin Fields trade by handling the situation differently? I think so. But this whole process was part of the promise Ryan Poles made when he talked about it was it at the NFL Scouting Combine, I believe, or was it in Mobile? No, I think it was at the Combine where he said, we want to do right by Justin Fields either way, whether we're going to keep him, whether we're going to trade him. We want to make sure that we don't drag this out and that we do right by him. That was the phrase we've heard all offseason since then. How do you do right by Justin Fields and not have him just stay in this gray area? And I think for the parties involved, getting him to the Pittsburgh Steelers like this is about as close to doing right as the Bears could, given the circumstances. Like, maybe you could argue, okay, keeping Justin Fields and not drafting Caleb Williams would be doing right by Fields, but like, aside from that, like, they do have to make the right decision for the franchise in the first place. But once the decision is made to trade Justin Fields, and then how the quarterback market plays out, this feels like about as good as the Bears could have done for Justin Fields, especially when you consider that they took less from the Pittsburgh Steelers in order to put Justin Fields there. Some reporting from ESPN's Courtney Cronin, as well as NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport said, At least 4 additional teams inquired about trading for Justin Fields, but Fields' representation, his agent, asked for him not to be traded there. He wanted the Steelers, and the Bears did right by him. Now, that doesn't mean that other teams were offering first-round picks for Justin Fields, and the Bears took a 6th-round pick to send him to the Steelers, but I do think perhaps, I would guess, that the Philadelphia Eagles called the Chicago Bears and said, hey, we would like Justin Fields. The Bears / Justin Fields' agent said, we don't really want to send you within the NFC, and Justin Fields doesn't really want to be Jalen Hurts' pure backup with no path to playing time there. So I think that's when the Eagles called the Steelers and traded for Kenny Pickett, and then the Steelers called the Bears and said, hey, let's do this. I think the Steelers were already shopping Kenny Pickett, but ended up sending him to the Eagles instead, and that opened up the room for Fields to come to the Pittsburgh. Like, I would imagine a team like Philly or a team like, I don't know, Baltimore or Indianapolis Colts or whoever was offering the Bears maybe a 5th-round pick or something, and Ryan Poles took a 6th, a conditional 6th, to send him to the Steelers instead. Like, did he sabotage his own team by taking such a terrible, worse pick than he was offering before? Probably not. Could he have squeezed out a little bit more by trading Justin Fields to some other team? Maybe. But again, I think he was caught in this tough spot where entering free agency, he needed to see where Kirk Cousins goes and where Russell Wilson goes and where some of these other quarterbacks wind up. And it just so happens that Kirk Cousins goes to the Falcons and Russell Wilson goes to the Steelers. But if Kirk Cousins had stayed with the Vikings and Russell Wilson had gone to the Raiders or another team that wasn't as interested in Justin Fields, then all of a sudden maybe Atlanta's willing to offer more for Fields, or Pittsburgh is willing to offer more for Fields because they need him to be their starter, as opposed to a lot of these quarterback destinations that would have been interested in Fields found starters elsewhere and then weren't as interested in sending as much compensation to the Bears. And so for Ryan Poles, he couldn't control that. I mean, that's not to excuse him and say, well, he couldn't have handled this better. No, I think there were probably ways where could they have been more aggressive about this or more upfront about this or had better expectations early on? Probably could have been handled better, but I don't know that there was this path towards the perfect play where the Falcons still want Justin Fields or something like that. Like there were certain aspects of this in terms of the quarterback carousel that were outside of the Bears' control. And so ultimately the quarterback windows don't line up. Like the Vikings needed a quarterback, but you're not going to trade Justin Fields there, and everything kind of played out. So the Fields destinations filled up even when other quarterback spots did not. And that's where you end up with Justin going to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Steelers getting an absolute steal here. I mean, for a young quarterback, like I think we're all going to be rooting for Justin over there in the AFC. I think we're all expecting that before the end of this regular season, Russell Wilson will be supplanted by Justin Fields. Maybe not by week 1, but you certainly would be rooting for by week 7 or 8 so that Fields can hit that 51% snap threshold and then turn that pick into a 4th-round pick for the Chicago Bears. But again, like it's not necessarily moving the needle a ton, whether that's a 6th or a 4th. It's also in next year's draft, so it doesn't address the Bears' current lack of draft picks. I think we were all hoping, oh man, the Bears could get a 2nd-round pick this year to replace the Montez Sweat pick and be able to get another impact player there right away for this team. Not going to be the case. And still, Ryan Poles finding a way to go get a Keenan Allen, who we talked about on Friday's podcast, doing a good job of starting to fill out this roster even more, but still work to be done as well for the next quarterback here. But I want to really like eulogize in not such a serious way, but like, really look back on Justin Fields' career, kind of take stock of it now that it's done so we can kind of lay it to rest and then move on to the Caleb Williams era coming soon next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, there is no cap on that 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th, so get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. We were all rooting for Justin Fields. And I don't think anybody is like explicitly happy to see Justin Fields go. You might be happy for the Caleb Williams era to start and to potentially feel like you're upgrading a quarterback, but like in a vacuum, no one really wanted to get Justin Fields out of here. Maybe you wanted to upgrade from Justin Fields, but like everybody likes Justin Fields. He is easy to root for, and we're always going to look back on his Bears career and wonder what if, and look back at it as an asset that was, if not squandered, then definitely not put in a position to be successful. Like this was a quarterback who came into a bad situation. That bad situation got worse in year 2, started to turn around a little bit in year 3, but number 1 overall pick with Caleb Williams in the draft. Sorry, buddy, you're out of here. And like, I still think that's the right decision because of the kind of quarterback Caleb Williams is, but it's also undeniable that like it was a bad, crappy situation for Justin Fields. And if the Bears did not have the number 1 overall pick this year, there would have been no discussion about trading him. There would still be discussion about potentially drafting a quarterback, but you would draft that quarterback and still have Justin Fields on the roster. Like the conversation is purely this. Like this trade only happens because the Bears got exactly the number 1 overall pick, right? If the Panthers had won more games last season and the Bears were picking 4th or 5th or 6th, I don't think we're having this conversation. Or if the Panthers had drafted CJ Stroud and were a much better team, we wouldn't have gotten to this point of the trade. We wouldn't have been having this conversation all off season. Like it isn't fair to Justin Fields, but it is what is best for this Bears organization. And it was never really fair for Justin Fields. And that's what we'll look back on and wonder, like, man, what if Justin Fields had come into a better situation in his first season? What if he had, even if the year 1 isn't great, like what if they had found a way to turn things around more quickly in year 2 and hadn't torn down in some of the same ways? Like, what type of quarterback could he have been with a better supporting cast early on and more effective, consistent quarterback development throughout his early years in football? Because the feeling we kind of get is like, man, it's been, it's year 3 of Fields and he hasn't taken that giant step forward. He's made progress, but never took that leap where you're like, yes, for sure, he has proven beyond a doubt he is the guy. He never took that level of a leap. And so you wonder if he ever will. Once you've been in the league for a handful of seasons now, like, is he just is what he is as a quarterback? Did we kind of get past the phase where he's most malleable and now he's still going to improve, but he's not going to take that big leap in year 4, year 5, year 6? Because after the first 3 seasons, you kind of know what he is and what he isn't. But if he had had the opportunity to do so earlier on with a better supporting cast, could it have been a totally different outcome for Fields in Chicago? Like, when you think back to 2021, when the Bears drafted him, the plan was, on paper, a decent one, right? He's going to sit behind Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. Okay, not decent in terms of the quarterbacks they chose, but like, okay, we're going to draft this athletic rookie quarterback and we're going to sit him behind some veterans and let him develop. All right, we're good with that. Like, that's what we wanted. All right, let's be patient with this quarterback. So Fields spends OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason as kind of the number 3 quarterback, becomes the number 2 as Nick Foles kind of becomes the number 3, but like always the backup, always working with backups and not really getting much time with the starters, not really getting a ton of like, the dominant practice reps, right? I think occasionally he got some first team reps, but like it was very, very rare. And so he didn't have that real like prep time when week 3 comes around and he has to start against the Cleveland Browns against Myles Garrett and get sacked 9 times. And like, I don't think that one game ruined Justin Fields. I mean, he had a great game later that season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is why they traded for him. But like that one game didn't ruin Justin Fields, but that one game was emblematic of like what Fields' Bears career would be like. It's like, all right, we'll throw you out there. Good luck. Figure it out. Sorry, we didn't prepare you very well. Sorry, we didn't put great teammates around you, but you'll figure it out. And imagine how he could have figured it out with better preparation and better teammates. Like you look back at those 2021 Bears offense, like, yeah, they had receivers. They had Allen Robinson. That was Darnell Mooney's big year when he had 1,000 yards. I guess beyond that, there wasn't much else at wide receiver, but okay, Robinson and Mooney wasn't a terrible group there. They had Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham. I guess tight ends weren't terrible there, but really what jumped out at me about that group was the offensive line. You remember they started that season with Elijah Wilkinson at left tackle, and then I think he moved over to right tackle, and they had Jermaine Ifedi, I think, was playing right tackle for a time there. Then they signed a 40-year-old Jason Peters to play left tackle, and you had Sam Mustipher at center the whole time. Like, Justin Fields did not have an offensive line in his rookie season. He did not have consistency in terms of development from the coaching staff. And then, of course, Bill Lazor takes over play calling as things get messy, and it's just like one thing after another, kind of a mess. But okay, after year one, clean slate, fire the coach, which is, again, new offense for Fields, just not great. But okay, if we all agree, Nagy not the right guy for the job. I think we were all kind of on the same page there. Eberflus and Getsy come in. Okay, maybe these guys can be better for Fields. But then you start over this team building process where you tear everything down. You get rid of Allen Robinson. You get rid of a bunch of the older players. You go younger. You go cheaper at a lot of these spots. Turn over the roster. And somehow, like, Fields' supporting cast got worse. Like, at least you had Allen Robinson and some veterans on your offensive line in that first year there. But year two, his receivers are Mooney, Equanimeous St. Brown, Dante Pettis. They started with Amir Smith-Marset and Rayless Jones. Like, that was your wide receiver core. And you put in a rookie fifth-round pick left tackle Braxton Jones, who was good, but a rookie fifth-round pick nonetheless. You still have Sam Mustipher. You got Larry Borum playing tackle, and they ended up rotating Riley Reef in at tackle too. And it's just like, all of a sudden, Fields has nothing. And of course, a terrible defense that trades away Roquan Smith, trades away Robert Quinn, and slowly gets more and more injured. And it's like, wow, 2 full seasons of Fields getting jack squat. And, the offensive coordinator wasn't really, the first half of that year, the offense was not helping Fields at all. Then he changes the offense to make Fields a rusher, and that worked great. And then year 3, they got away from that again. And we just saw year 3 where it felt like the situation was better. And then, so we were waiting for Fields to take that next step, and he didn't quite. He made progress, but not the big step. And then we're left thinking like, man, okay, like he made some progress in year 3. And that's why I totally get like wanting to run it back with Fields and give him an even better supporting cast with Keenan Allen and everybody now that he could maybe take another step forward. Like I see that as a pathway. And if Caleb Williams wasn't there, if the Bears didn't have the number 1 overall pick, we'd be all in on that. But you also have 2 years of struggling and 2 years of some bad habits becoming more and more entrenched, 2 years of holding onto the ball too long, 2 years of passing up routes in your progression when receivers are open, and enough of these questions about Fields still that when you have the opportunity to add a number 1 overall pick quarterback that you think can be something a couple of tiers above what Fields has been, you have to take that chance. And as a result, the rest of the NFL seems to agree. No one's clamoring to trade for Fields as a starter. The Bears get a 6th-round pick that reflects how the rest of the NFL felt about Fields too. A lot of teams wanted him as a backup, and everybody wanted him to trade for him as a backup process. And so if the other teams in the NFL see him as a backup quarterback, that's not a sign that the Bears should be investing all in on a guy that the NFL sees as a backup quarterback. That's why you swing for the fences with Caleb Williams. And so it can be undoubtedly true that Fields didn't get a fair shake. Fields could still have more in the tank. And it was the right time and decision to trade him, and that it's right to draft Caleb Williams and move on. And I want to make sure, I think these things can happen at the same time. We can be sad or disappointed in how things went with Justin Fields, and we can also then turn around and be excited about what Caleb Williams will bring to the Chicago Bears. So we'll try and turn the page here and turn our attention forward to the future with where things stand in the Bears quarterback draft process right now and how that aligned with them getting the Justin Fields trade done at this time. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Gametime, the best way to get tickets for all of your favorite live events. Whether it's sports, concerts, live shows of any kind in theaters and comedy shows, you name it, they have it all at Gametime. I love using the Gametime app. I actually use it all the time to go to events because a couple key reasons. One, Gametime has all-in pricing, so I end up paying less in fees by going through Gametime than actually going through the ticket companies and the venues themselves. I actually save money by buying my tickets through Gametime, and you can see your view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And they've got a best price guarantee that if you find the same tickets in the same sections and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. I use it all the time. Try it for yourself and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The Justin Fields era is over, and the Caleb Williams era is about to begin. I guess as we sit here today in mid-March, we don't know with 100% certainty that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. They have not come out and said they're going to draft Caleb Williams. But I think we can sit here right now with 95% certainty, 99.99% certainty that the Chicago Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. I've been doing a lot of podcast and radio interviews about this over the last couple of weeks, especially this weekend with the trade. It's been nonstop. But like the phrase I keep using when people ask, like, are the Bears going to draft Caleb Williams? And I say, at this point, it would take something drastic, something shocking, a criminal something or other, a legal issue to pop up out of nowhere with Caleb, or some kind of, I guess crazy medical thing, right? It would take something extreme to move the Bears off of Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles still wants to do the private workout, still wants to do the pro day. He's not going to get ahead of himself. He's not going to just say, yep, he's my guy no matter what. I'm block out all their options. We're in on him. We're not even going to bother with doing, no. Still going to treat him like every other quarterback they will in the draft. They're going to do every process. They're going to cross the T. They're going to dot their I's. They're going to check all the boxes. Pick your idiom that you want to use. Like, they're going to make sure that they do this process through and through. But all signs keep pointing them to Caleb Williams, and they have been on Caleb Williams since before the combine. Throughout this offseason, everything has been they like Caleb Williams. And so that's something to be excited about. Like, yeah, you could be the biggest Justin Fields supporter, and you can be mad that the Bears traded Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick. I don't blame you. Like, it's a frustrating compensation to get, and you're worried and confident that Fields is going to go to the Steelers and be great. And we're going to look at this trade and go, man, the Bears had a really good quarterback, and they traded him away for nothing, and now he's great for that other team. Those are all valid feelings with, like, actual logical football explanations behind it that you can point to and say, hey, here's my evidence of why I think that's going to happen, right? I don't think it's a flawed position to take whatsoever. All that can be true, and you can also be excited for Caleb Williams, right? Like, just because you really like Justin Fields doesn't mean you can't also really like Caleb Williams. Like, these things don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can like more than one quarterback. Caleb doesn't have to be a shot at Justin Fields or a detracting from Justin Fields. Like, you can like both of them, and you can think Justin is a great quarterback that they shouldn't have gotten rid of, and you can think, hey, I'm going to be excited about Caleb Williams and root for him to be the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, I think if you're listening to Locked On Bears, like, your allegiance is to the Chicago Bears, not just to Justin Fields. I mean, maybe you're the biggest Georgia and Ohio State fan in the world. Some people are just Justin Fields fans, and by all means, go right ahead. I just don't think that's you listening to this podcast right now, but I understand loving Justin Fields and keep loving Justin Fields. Like, I'm going to root for him on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, it's tough for me because I'm a Wisconsin alum. I mean, Russell Wilson, like, I've met him a couple of times. Like, I don't want to wish poor on Russell Wilson, but he's not super likable either. So, it's like, well, I don't want to wish bad things on Russell Wilson, but I want Justin Fields to go win that battle and be great for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want nothing more than that. Like, it'd be really fun to see. And I want to see Caleb Williams come to the Chicago Bears and be great. Like, both of these things can all happen at the same time. Like, think about it. Like, this is the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. The quarterback that, whatever your evaluation is of Caleb Williams, if you put that aside for a second, you're allowed to find flaws in Caleb Williams and think he's not a perfect prospect. You're allowed to like Jaden Daniels or Drake May more, by all means. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong or that there's no merit to those thoughts either. But the rest of the NFL really wants Caleb Williams. And when you talk to fans of other teams, reporters who cover other teams, other Locked On Podcast Network hosts. I mean, I've had this conversation off the air with Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, Matt Derry from Locked On Lions, and the other Locked On Podcast Network hosts. Their biggest fear is that the Bears take Caleb Williams. Like, they spent all offseason saying, hey, we hope you keep Fields and pass on Williams because we don't want you to have Caleb Williams. Other teams and other fan bases are scared of the Bears getting Caleb Williams because they think he can be so good. That doesn't mean the wisdom of the crowd is always 100% correct, but it's a sign that should make it easier for you to embrace it, right? Like if everybody, more or less, right? Okay, it's not 100%, but like if 99% of people are like, yes, Caleb Williams looks good, and man, the Bears are making the right choice by drafting him, then like you can't be wrong. You know what I mean? Like if the Bears draft Caleb Williams and he's not the guy, well, everybody thought he was the guy. So no one's going to look at the Bears and go, wow, idiots. Like, why did they think Caleb Williams would be good? Everybody thought Caleb Williams would be good. So if he's not, everybody was wrong, right? This is not going out on a limb and saying, we're going to make the bold choice to take the best quarterback in the draft instead of Justin Fields. Like that's not the bold choice. The bold choice would have been keeping Justin Fields and trading down, passing on that number 1 overall pick. So there's a certain protection in that, right? Where it's like, listen, anybody outside of the Chicago that was in the Bears' shoes would draft Caleb Williams and trade away Justin Fields. So like you can't be singled out as wrong if you are wrong, because that would mean almost everybody else was wrong. So lean in, embrace Caleb Williams, right? This is not the Mitch Trubisky draft all over again, where people are torn between Mitch or Deshaun or Patrick Mahomes, and like that was supposed to be a bad quarterback class, and the Bears had to move up a spot, and it was just like there were some icky feelings about how the Bears handled the drafting of Mitch Trubisky, right? People were making fun of them for moving up one spot. A lot of people weren't sure whether Mitch was the top quarterback in the draft. It was weird. And even in the Justin Fields draft, like a lot of people like Justin Fields, but he was the 4th quarterback taken, right? It wasn't like Fields was this can't miss prospect. Like some people didn't like Justin Fields. Some people weren't sure. Some people thought he would fall the way he did. Like he was not a sure thing that, everyone would like. Like you can blame the team if they got the quarterback evaluation wrong there. But like Caleb is in a different category. It doesn't mean he has to be Patrick Mahomes to be successful, but he is in a different category of like, yes, everyone would do that. It's kind of like Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars, where it's like, okay, people are starting to question Trevor Lawrence, but no one is questioning the Jaguars for drafting him. Like no one's like, man, the Jaguars really shouldn't have taken Trevor Lawrence. No, it's, man, maybe Trevor Lawrence isn't as great as we thought he was, but that's not the Jaguars' fault. And maybe the Jaguars haven't supported Trevor Lawrence enough. And maybe the injuries he had this past season had a lot to do with it. And I personally think, I'm not giving up on Trevor Lawrence by any means. I think he's still going to have a strong career in front of him. But it's that same idea, right? It's like no one blames the team when you do the thing that everyone else wishes they could do in your spots. And when you're the envy of the NFL, this is a great place to be in. So like embrace it, enjoy it, get ready. You can take your time grieving the Justin Fields career in Chicago. You don't have to decide, you don't have to be tomorrow, buy your Caleb Williams jersey, but like get ready for like genuine quarterback excitement again that everyone believes in, everyone's excited about, and then everyone else is scared of you having him, right? That's a power at the quarterback position that the Bears have not had. And we haven't had a number 1 overall pick quarterback to get excited about like this in my lifetime. My past NFL draft history is not deep enough. I don't think the Bears have ever taken a quarterback number 1 overall. You Chicago Bears historians out there are going to post in the YouTube comments and correct me if I'm wrong there, but like I don't think they've ever taken a quarterback number 1 overall. We've seen plenty of first round quarterbacks over the years, and I get the fatigue of not wanting to continue that cycle once again with Caleb Williams here, but I think this is just something a little bit different, a little bit more special, and a little bit, I don't want to say can't miss, because we're never going to sit here and pretend like Caleb Williams is the perfect prospect with no flaws that can't possibly be wrong. But man, it's easy to get excited when you watch his tape. Like it's okay. It's okay to let go of the really contentious Fields Caleb Williams stuff, and everyone can kind of come together behind Caleb Williams and say, yes, this quarterback coming into this supporting cast. Yes, it's not fair that Caleb Williams gets a great supporting cast or a very good one, and Justin Fields didn't, right? Justin Fields got screwed. Caleb Williams is coming into a much, much better situation, and that's not fair. 100% true. But that doesn't mean like we have to blame Caleb Williams for that. That's not Caleb's fault. That's not even Ryan Poles' fault. That wasn't Poles' supporting cast. But Poles didn't draft Justin Fields. Like Caleb's coming into a great spot. It's as good of a spot as the Bears have put a rookie quarterback in my lifetime and probably in your lifetime too. Like this is gearing up very nicely to where like, we'll see what the results are, but the process feels better. You're taking the best quarterback. You've got receivers for him. You're improving the O-line. I'd like to see a little bit more there, but you've got a couple good veteran wide receivers. You got a couple good veteran tight ends. You've got a good backfield. In theory, a good offensive coordinator, but we got to kind of see how that one plays out. But a lot to like about your offensive coordinator. Like, this feels a little bit more stable for Caleb than the Bears gave Justin Fields, than the Bears gave Mitch Trubisky, than the Bears gave Jay Cutler, than the Bears gave Rex Grossman, than the Bears gave Cade McNown, right? I mean, like, that cycle we're tired of, but we were tired of because those quarterbacks kept coming into terrible situations. Caleb is coming into something better than what those guys had. We'll see how much better when it actually plays out this season, but like, I think there's a lot of reason to be encouraged and like, get your hopes up again. It's okay. Like, that's the fun part, is getting excited, and maybe you'll be disappointed, maybe you'll be rewarded, but like, it's like love, right? It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Love Caleb Williams, accept Caleb Williams in your heart. Even though you loved Justin Fields and lost, you got to keep playing the game. That's why we root for NFL football. So buckle up and get ready to enjoy the ride here throughout this pre-draft process. We're going to go in-depth on Caleb Williams now that Justin Fields is gone. We're going to do in-depth scouting reports. We're going to break down everything you needed to know about the new Bears quarterback and everything else for this upcoming NFL draft, the 9th overall pick, how free agency has changed things and where the Bears could still get more draft picks, what a trade down would look like, and so much more. Plus, we still got to get to know these Bears new free agents with the help of some of our friends on the Locked On Podcast Network. So we have a bunch of great podcasts coming your way all throughout the coming weeks here of the offseason. So make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Bears on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for your second listen, come on back on March 20th at 6 o'clock Central Time. The Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel is unveiling our MLB season preview. So if you want to get excited for the baseball season, whether you're a Cubs fan, a White Sox fan, or some other team somewhere else, be the first to get local insight from our Major League Baseball local experts on the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it March 20th at 6 o'clock Central Time on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on our free Amazon Fire TV channels app. So check that out. Coming back for another episode of Locked On Bears and another opportunity for you to bear down.